There's so many ways to do business in real estate, and we have coaches or companies would teaching people how they made their money when it's up to that agent to figure out what's going to work for them. There's a
Right.
way they're going to find that one way that's going to work best for them.
Welcome, everybody, to Realizations. I'm your host, Andrea Gordon, and today I'm very happy to have Joe Arnao with me on the podcast. And I'm super excited about what he does because I think it's super interesting. To give you a little bit of background for me, Joe, regarding my podcast, I started this podcast right after the NAR DOJ lawsuits and the commission lawsuits. I live in Berkeley, California. I'm a super politico. I grew up in New York City. I speak my mind. And I got very upset because I felt like we weren't being respected as a profession,
Yeah.
and that people who didn't have anything to do with real estate were adjudicating and affecting my livelihood and my friends' livelihoods for no good reason. So rather than be angry for several years, I decided that I would create a podcast to try to educate the American people about what it is that realtors do, how we intersect with the life of a whole city, how we intersect in business with so many different vendors and people, and how complicated our profession actually is, and that it is indeed due respect. So that's the genesis of the podcast. It literally came from there. And I think what you're doing is very interesting because, with a very long background as a manager, broker, business starter, what have you, you are now engaged in a really interesting consulting idea. Now, I want to back up though, because you clearly had great ambition in your youth to start all these different businesses. I wonder what it is about you that makes you want to be a leader.
Yeah, I don't know what it is in me that does that. It's just there. It probably comes from being of service. My first foray into the real world of working was in the food service business. So I've always been of service. And
Mhm.
I think that is just part of being a leader is serving the people around you and helping others. And by doing that, that's where leadership is built. It's not
Mhm.
made. It comes to me, it just came that way. It wasn't something I set out to do.
So, in being a leader in all these varying real estate companies between Boston and North Carolina, where you're situated now, what was an overarching sort of theme of the work that you did for you besides being of service to others? What was the story that your life told based on those activities?
Wow, that's a really good question. I think the arc would probably be get doing what's right for people, helping people. I'm always at Dr. Meisner from BNI, Giver's Gain. I've always been, since I was a little kid, I've always been a giver. I've always wanted to help others.
Mhm.
And by being in my own business, I'm able to control that a lot better to most degrees. And I can serve honestly, the way I want to honestly serve people.
Cool.
So I think that's probably the overarching.
Okay. And like for me, for example, I'm a theater person. I ran theater companies. I slept on board members' couches. I hit 40 and was like, okay, I need to have a job where I actually make some money because I can't take this anymore. At a certain point, though, I got back into theater, and I have found in my life that making sure that I feed those parts of my soul that are important to me besides just doing real estate work, which can be very psychologically overwhelming. You're always dealing with people who are at crisis points in their life of varying kinds and good points in their life too. But it's very stressful as a job. So having that outlet in the arts for me, I play piano, I do theater. I'm getting my PhD right now. All those things are the ways in which I compensate for the stress that was involved. Now, you made a gigantic move from Boston. It was Boston.
We're actually on Cape Cod, right
Okay,
down
so
the
from,
street.
from
Yeah.
Cape Cod to North Carolina, that must have been culture shock like crazy.
It was. We were ready. We were in a small town on Cape Cod, Sandwich, Mass, beautiful little town. And we felt a little bit confined. Growing up in Boston, I was used to the city life. Spent 27 years on the Cape, loved it, was great. A couple kids grew up there. And we were just ready for something that was a little bit easier, something that had sidewalks so we could actually walk to places and lots of
Mhm.
choices and
Mhm.
seasons that end on at a reasonable time. Yeah, we're into spring already here heavily,
Yeah.
and I think they're probably 2 months away up north. If it ever comes, sometimes it just jumps right into summer. So it's really nice to have all that. And we moved down here. We found out around here because my son moved down here first.
Got it.
Our oldest moved here first. We came down talking to him, visiting him, really liked what was here. And now we have a grandbaby 10 minutes away. So
Oh,
that can't get better than that.
that's great. That's super great. Yeah. It's funny in California, we're having massive spring too. So if I start sneezing, by the way, during this, that's, I'm having hay fever like you would not believe. But so you have now created a consulting company where you are, rather than continuing to open up brokerages and manage brokerages for other people and actively sell real estate. You are actually doing something really unusual. Can you explain to my viewers exactly what you do?
Sure. So a quick background. For years, I'd been in the recruiting and coaching business for other firms. Really enjoy helping agents grow. The misalignment and all that was I was doing it for a company, not necessarily for the agent. So it took a little while for me to figure out what was actually wrong with me inside. And when I
Mhm.
realized it was that, I started my own firm. And now I flipped the script on recruiting, and it's agent first. We figure out what the agent really needs. Do they actually need to move? So
Mhm.
I am not at all about just getting somebody to move. It's I tell people to stay, and they might need coaching, or they might need sometimes they have what they're looking for right in front of them. They don't even know it.
Right.
And so it's all about what's in the best interest of the agent. And the fun part is really digging in and figuring out what that is. There's so many people, and it's not just real estate agents, the people in general that don't ask or do the right questions to figure out who they really are,
Right.
what's driving them, and what do they need to succeed? What's the environment they need to be around? What are they willing to do? What are they not willing to do? So we
Hmm.
dive deep into that. And locally here in North Carolina and the Triangle and actually across the state, I can actually help place them because I know the market well enough. And I work with a bunch of independent brokerages mostly. And nationally, I've set it up so now I can serve people nationally. I might not be able to place them directly, yet I can, when they're done with the process, working together with me, they know what they want. There's clarity. They're going to walk into that brokerage that they're looking for, and they're going to know that's where they belong. And that's what really matters.
And I've always counseled people this way myself. You, as an agent, you are the client of the brokerage.
That's right.
The brokerage doesn't own you. You're not their employee. You work at that brokerage. You hang your shingle there. So, what you should be looking for is what is going to serve your needs absolutely the best in order to facilitate the best career possible. And if you
Absolutely.
are majorly interested in culture, that's one thing. If you're majorly interested in the tech that places have, that's another. If you're majorly interested in the type of clientele that they tend to attract, that's a whole other thing. If you are concerned about your commute, if you see their advertising and you like their branding. Whenever I'm hiring people, I have them take a personality test to find out whether they're drivers or introverts or whatever it is, because I want an employee that is going to be complementary to my traits. I don't want somebody just like me. I want somebody who can take over and do the things that I don't do as well because my personality is not that type. Are you testing people with this? Are you coaching them? How does this all work?
Both. So I actually have two assessments. One of them really sets them up. When we first meet, I understand where they are in the business. Should they be a solo agent? Should they be on a team? Should they be leading a team? And it actually measures where the next level might be. So they might be a
Mhm.
perfect team member now, and they might be close to being solo. And we can figure out where they want to go with that. And
Mhm.
then the deeper assessment, along with an hour of meeting with me, and there's an assessment that they take that takes about 2 hours for them to do on their own. And it is a deep dive into what makes them tick. And it's powerful. It's very powerful. Several agents have called and told me that I made them cry because they,
Aw.
in a good way. It's a good way because they're really getting in touch with who they are.
Mm.
That is, this is such a hard business. If you're driving somebody else's car and trying to do business their way, you're not going to make it.
Right.
So to dig through and really get to figure out who the people are, they have to stop.
Get this
They have to
out.
get answer those questions and really dig in. Is that me?
Joe, can you say if you stopped with you're driving this car?
So yeah, so it's like there's so many ways to do business in real estate, and we have coaches or companies or teaching people how they made their money
Mm.
when it's up to that agent to figure out what's going to work for them. There's a
Right.
way they're going to find that one way that's going to work best for them. So they
Mhm.
have to dig deep into that. The assessment helps them get through that. And the conversation we have is so they can really figure out what they need, where they should be, as far as not just what brokerage, but who should they be hanging around with? What are their people like? Who
Mhm.
are they at heart? And it goes back to childhood often
Yeah.
because we're still that person. And
Yeah.
some we don't think about that. So then it's all about moving forward, figuring out your big why, and getting clarity on all that. And once an agent has that understood, they know who their client is, they know what they will and won't do, they have guardrails in life, and they can start
Mhm.
to relax and work hard at all at the same time.
That's super cool. Yeah. Basically, what you're teaching people is how to find their authentic self and to move forward with that authentic self
Yeah.
and make sure that they're living a life that's congruent with who
Yeah.
they really are.
Yeah, you
So,
would mention that we go to a brokerage because of their tech or because of the people that they attract. It's really the agent who is the brand, and that brokerage has to help that. It has to support that agent's
mhm.
brand. And that's the real key is figuring that out ahead of time before you start talking to a recruiter because
Yeah.
recruiters are recruiting.
Yeah.
No, they're trying to get you in the door.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware, if the agent's not aware of what they actually want and who they are, I call it the 4W framework is who, what, where, and why. And if they
Mhm.
don't know those 4Ws, they could be chasing something that's just a shiny object and it's not going to really set them
Yep.
up for success.
So, based on this, hearing what you're having to say about this, what do you feel about the Compass merger and the purchase of Anywhere,
Yeah,
which was the dumbest name in the history of naming anything?
I know, right? Let's go on now. So that's
Yeah.
good. I work with a lot of small independent brokerages because that's my client. Those are my client base. I
Mhm.
need the big companies to train the agents that I'm going to bring to them for the most part. And that is a threat. I am really concerned about the health of the small independent brokers
Mhm.
because they are key to this business. There's so many of them. They're really embedded into the community. They care more about the community than a Fortune
Mhm.
500 or Wall Street company. They're embedded,
Mhm.
and those are the people, and so are the agents. And I shouldn't knock that. I don't mean to knock out the agents. It's the
Yeah.
smaller companies that really are part of the fabric of the area, and they offer services and opportunities that the big companies can't. And the big companies can do other things too. I'm working with a gentleman. Actually, we're building a network of independent brokers to help support each other and really get a force going instead of being on an island of one. We're trying to create a community.
Yeah, I don't know how it's going to work. I'm at Compass. I was one
Hmm.
of the people, I was one of the early recruits to Compass. Robert Refkin kept calling me himself.
Nice.
He grew up in Berkeley, and I'm very, not to boast, but I'm pretty famous in Berkeley. And so he would be calling me going, "You're the top agent in Berkeley. I have to have you for my company." And so eventually, after his offer got really amazing, my husband was like, "You just have to go.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous." So I did. And I've loved it at Compass. I have enjoyed everything about it. We do have a great culture, and it seems to be office by office
Oh yeah.
how it feels. Like I'm in the Berkeley office and it feels very much like a community and culture and all of that good stuff. Like we even have a book club and things like that. I know that the Oakland office is huge and I have a feeling it's not quite as community feeling as the one that
Sure.
I'm in. And I probably wouldn't like being at that office because there's 400 people there.
Yeah.
But I do think that with this merger, I wonder how the identities of all the different companies are going to stay in place. And I was with
Yeah.
Coldwell Banker for years, and that's a very different company than Compass. I know that the agents that came to Compass from what was it called? Pacific Union were not comfortable in the culture at Compass, and a lot of them left and went to a place called Vanguard, which is a smaller boutique group. So I was just curious your take on it.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just ever since Compass came on the map, they've been interesting to follow. Here in North Carolina, there are a couple of companies that it was Allen Tate, which was a longtime independent firm, was
Mhm.
purchased by Howard Hanna, which is a large, massive,
Mhm.
still family-owned company. And when the merger first happened, it was like, oh, we're going to keep everything the same. And now they're Howard Hanna, Allen Tate, and the
Right.
signs are green, which is fine. They're both great companies. And the same thing happened with Fonville Morrissey, where
Mhm.
Long and Foster many years ago purchased them. And they just recently this year went from Fonville Morrissey to Long and Foster. So
Mhm.
it is going to be interesting to see what happens with all these Compass companies if they are going to absorb into the culture or not.
Yeah, it worries me this most recent thing that they've done with Rocket and
Yeah.
Redfin. All of that I find a little bit I don't know. I'm on the board of directors of the multiple listing service, so I don't like the idea of creating a shadow multiple listing service that isn't accessible to anybody else except
Where's the consumer's interest in all this?
hello. Thank you.
They are not involved
Yeah.
in this conversation at all. And the
Yeah.
public is the one I think that's going to suffer the most. Obviously,
Mhm.
small firms will, but there's always going to be room somewhere.
Yeah.
But I think the bigger harm is going to come to consumers who now don't have as many choices where they might not have access to all the inventory. And that scares me because that's
Mhm.
where fair housing gets involved. And now we don't need any more government oversight on
Oh
any
yeah,
of this,
exactly. Basically,
right?
you could create a world where the government steps in
Yeah.
because of this. There are also a lot of questions going on right now about the merger itself and that it was rubber stamped through
Well,
inappropriately.
and what the timing was on that, right? The government was shut down
Yeah,
when it went
I do.
through.
I
And
do.
I don't think that was an accident.
Yeah. So because of all of those things, I can tell your politics are the same as mine. Because of all of that, I'm a little skeptical right now. I'm 69 years old. I'm not doing this forever. I'm going to be doing this for another 5 or 6 years, I would guess, and then I'll sink back into the theater world as best I can with a PhD.
Nice.
But so for me, the idea of switching companies or some such, it doesn't seem practical.
Right.
Every time I've ever switched companies, it's been about a 6 month ramp up, and
Oh,
you lose
always.
business, and it's hard to create your brand again and get out there. I'm like a brand unto myself. I sell about $60 million worth of real estate
Nice.
annually. In 2021, I sold 112 million. Same
Wow.
volume, by the way. That gives you an idea of
Same unit count?
yeah, that's gives you an
Wow.
idea how crazy the market was in 2021. But in any case, so for me, I'm an observer in the situation because I don't have an oar in there. But, and again, I do love Compass as a company for myself personally. I do think of all of real estate pretty much as a meritocracy. And unfortunately, it seems to me that if you're not a top producer, you don't get as many goodies because you're not a top producer. And
Right.
so there's a bit about it that I don't like in terms of like mom and pop real estate companies that are going to be really suffering without information, without the proper
Yep.
education, without access to the legal tools, without access to all this other stuff that we get access to. I don't know. Doing this podcast, and I'm sure you and doing your podcast too, I've seen that real estate is practiced very differently in all the different parts of the country. And
Yeah, very
that
much.
is one thing that I do think should change. I think that it would be really helpful if things were a little bit more unified. You're smiling
So,
like you're about to
yeah,
say
so one of the
something.
things here in North Carolina, I don't know if there's another state that does it. We have a due diligence fee that is non-refundable. A buyer puts down a chunk of money, the check goes directly to the seller and it doesn't come back unless there's some malfeasance going on. So, in order for the seller to take the property off the market, they get paid. They get paid.
Wow.
It does go to closing. It does
Mhm.
apply to the purchase price, yet there's no, it's not refundable.
We have an earnest money deposit.
We have that too.
Wow. So you have, what is the fee on this due diligence?
The due diligence is to take the property off the market.
But
And during, you
what's the
mentioned,
cost?
oh, it can range. So it can be $1,000, it can be $5,000. When it was crazy here in the 2021, it was the people putting down $100,000, 50%. And they were buying because they wanted that house. It
Right.
was such a crazy market. The due diligence was out of control. And they were
See,
using it as a bargaining tool. And
and
that was not what it was meant to do. It was,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. So for that's I have never heard of that before, and apparently
yeah.
it's something that's in North Carolina. It's not in any of the other states that I've talked to.
It's actually a smart thing, not when it goes out of control. There should be some parameters on it. Because as a seller, before we came down here, I was at the whim of the buyer. I had all my bags packed and we're on Cape Cod, closings in July. If that fell apart, I'm putting my property back on midsummer.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
you're gonna
it's
get
okay, but
hosed.
it's not the greatest timing.
Yeah, you get
Um,
hosed at that point.
yeah. So to have that check that they're more likely not to back out if there's money on the table they're going to lose. Because when they make that decision, they mean it,
Yeah,
not just
that's
taking
true.
a shot.
Whereas here things can be a little bit more mercurial
Yeah,
and people will back out because
yeah,
they don't have to worry about it because they have a contingency to that they
right.
can use to
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, that's interesting. That's very interesting. You are a fascinating person to have on my show, and I'm really enjoying this. How can somebody get a hold of you if they want to use your services?
The best way probably is find me on LinkedIn or at my website is 4W Strategic Consulting. Uh,
Great.
LinkedIn, Joe Arnao is probably the easiest. I have all my videos there, my interviews, which I'm hoping you'll be on one soon.
Thank
And
you.
I put all my content there. That's
That
where the
is
most conversations happen.
That is marvelous. Thank you for this opportunity to talk. I'm really glad you came on my show today, and you're doing something very interesting and unusual. And I think that all of those people that are listening, if you're a realtor, I think these are all things worth considering. And I think what Joe is doing is a very valid, meaningful thing. Thank you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thanks, Andrea. Thanks so much. Great being here.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
If you loved hearing from these incredible voices shaping real estate, you'll want to catch what's next. Click the video on screen to keep discovering more inspiring stories.